a lot of times the idea may be great, the purpose may be great, but your motivation is all wrong.
I like it.
And so when you're talking about reaching a next generation or reaching your spouse, or even let's just say you're a parent, you're just not getting, you got teenagers and you're just not seeing eye to eye. The first thing I got to ask is like, is this coming out of a place of love?
Have you had your daily drip? Welcome back to the Daily Drip Podcast, where we create kingdom content that builds community. I got Pastor Adam in the building.
Yes, sir. In the house.
Yes.
What's up?
Hey, you back?
I'm back, bro.
I'm glad you're here.
I'm back from the last one. I'm 40 pounds less than the last one. So, I'm feeling good, bro.
Yeah, I was posting Adam on these clips, and I'm like, you're not sharing them, bro. He was like, man, I look different now.
I am it, bro. Honestly, bro, it was an insecurity thing. I was like, oh my gosh, dude. And like, because the way at the time the camera was set up, it was kind of coming under, so accentuates the big boy look.
Got it.
I'd be like, man, that was a profound thought I shared, but I don't think I can reshare this video, bro.
Hey, but you looking good, bro.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
This drip is fitting. This is season 2 if you locked in. Season 1 was Philippians. Now we're in Ecclesiastes. And I had to talk to Adam about this drip right here because it's fitting. The drip is new.
Okay. Yep.
The drip is new. And we'll kind of get into that. But I want to read the verses. We're going to read verses 9 through 11. Last episode we were talking about seasons. Now we're talking about new. Let's go. What has been is what will be, and what has been done is what will be done. And there is nothing new under the sun. Is there a thing of which it is said, see, this is new? It has been already in the ages before us. So there is no remembrance of the former things, nor will there be any remembrance of latter things yet to be among those who come after.
Yeah.
That makes me sad. But I wanted to get your take on this.
Yeah.
Because every time I'm around you, you're cooking up something new.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it definitely, on like one end, it can make us sad.
Yeah.
Because it could make us feel like, well, then why try? Because if there's nothing ever new or fresh or, even doing a podcast like this or anything else, you could be like, why would I do it?
Yeah.
Other people are doing it. There's always that thought, and there's always could be a base layer of insecurity with any of those things. But the way that I see it, especially coming from Ecclesiastes and it coming from the wisdom literatures, is less about sadness and more about this hope. Okay. That if you think in the case of Ecclesiastes and it's a king's wisdom to his son, every king wants to make their own name. Yeah. Like that's in the premise. Like I want to build something in my honor, whether it be a building, a kingdom, money, whatever it is. And Solomon gets to the end of his life and he's like, man, I did all that. And it was like chasing the wind. There was nothing to it. Yeah. And so if anything, I think it's meant to give you a relief. Okay, if there's nothing new under the sun, then that means anything I do or anything I do create is just an iteration of something that has occurred already. So remove your ego. Okay. Remove your desire for personal namesake or pride because it's been done before. Okay. And so I think that's the wisdom that he's mainly giving is like, hey, son, whatever you think you could pride yourself in, just know someone's out there and they've done it before too. Yeah. And it'd be like, oh man, more of this sigh of relief of thinking, well, maybe I don't have to build this for my own name. So, I mean, for me, if I'm always kind of trying to tap into something new, it's kind of less with the premise of like financial glory or premise that my name, like even a lot of the stuff I create, like my name's not on it most of the time, and because it's not really for that reason. But I like to be involved in things that would be considered new, or what we also may say is fresh. Okay. It's a fresh take to something that's been done already. Is because I've always been fascinated with new technologies and new things. Yeah. I think there's very many reasons on why that is for me, but I'm inspired by the fact that I don't feel like I have to create all this on my own.
I like that take, because you're saying that instead of having this angst, because you're looking at it in context, Solomon reflected on his life and thinking about the next generations.
Yeah.
Hey, at the end of the day, while you do these new things, just like last episode, there will be seasons. The sun goes up, the sun goes down, the wind circles around north, the circle around south. So there will be these seasons. That doesn't mean to stop trying new things, because there are new generations to be reached. But I want to kind of get your wisdom on, because you've been asked to speak in a lot of spaces about how to reach Gen Z or Gen Alpha. So that is a new generation.
Yeah.
Same gospel, same Bible, same conference, right?
Yeah.
But now you have been a thought leader in regards to how do I reach the next generation. We're seeing new things with these individuals. How do we wrestle that thought with this context here?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the main things would be similar to how Ecclesiastes has been written. You can read Ecclesiastes and you can tell that it comes from a father's love and a father's heart. And so I think trying to reach a next generation, number one, and I'd say with anything, right, with a marriage or anything, number one is what is the motivation for this decision or what it is I'm trying to do.
Okay.
A lot of times the idea may be great, the purpose may be great, but your motivation is all wrong.
I like it.
And so when you're talking about reaching a next generation or reaching your spouse, or even let's just say you're a parent, you're just not getting, you got teenagers and you're just not seeing eye to eye. The first thing I got to ask is like, is this coming out of a place of love?
Yeah.
Does it come from love?
Yeah.
Or is it coming out of control? Is it coming out of fear, right? I talk to parents all the time that are like, well, I'm locking them in a box because I'm scared that they may do the things I did.
Okay.
You know?
Okay.
And you know, I'll talk with parents and be like, well, how many secrets did you keep from your parents? Oh my gosh, you won't even believe. Well, how many secrets do you think your teenager has from you? Oh no.
None.
You know, none. Yeah. We have an open book policy at the house. It's like, oh, okay. So it's that understanding of like, number one, it comes from a place of love. Okay. And I always evaluate anything new I'm doing. Is it because I care? Is it because I love? Is it because I'm passionate about it? And am I willing to do the necessary sacrifices it'll take to get there?
Yeah.
And so like approaching it that way, there's a lot of things over the years in NEWness that I've had opportunity presented to me that I've said no to. And it's either because I didn't feel that I would give my heart to it, or B, I felt like it would take advantage of people.
Yeah.
Or my role in people's lives. There's so many people that have come up to me like, "Hey, we could do this, and you can make a ton of money from it."
Yeah.
Like, well, I'm not motivated by that. It's necessary. You have to make money to live, but that's not my motivation. Because if you really ingest Ecclesiastes, you know, as our mentor, one of our mentors, Pastor Kinney says, you know, if the 3 G's are always before you, then that'll always trip you up. And what are the 3 G's? It's the girls, the gold, and the glory. And to me, Ecclesiastes bottles up that idea.
True.
That talking to a young son, but just in general to anyone, the NEWness or reaching Gen Z or reaching Gen Alpha, it's not for girls, and you could put girls in the sense of like people's idealization of you, in the sense of romanticizing you. It's not for the gold, and it can't be for the glory, people praising you and going viral or whatever. That I've had the opportunity that I've had all of those things happen to me, and it didn't make life any easier. For sure. Actually made life more complicated. For sure. You know, you go viral, you know, 10 to 20 times, you get more critics, you get more naysayers, you get, you know, so there's so much stuff that comes with this idea of what people are searching for, where for me, I just like, man, I want to, and I know you and I are on the same level. Like if I could basically get people to understand while they're here on earth, how much God loves them, how much a relationship with Christ will transform their practical life, also their spiritual life, then I've done my job. So,
yeah,
you know, whether it be looking at a new technology, I've had opportunity to do church in VR. I've just never been convinced that you can practically, theologically have church right now with today's technology and virtual reality.
Yeah.
So I've had the opportunity to be one of the first to be in, I owned for many years the domain vrchurch.com, and some other things, but it's like, just because it's new and it's fresh doesn't mean you should jump up. Or we are also going to be the first church that was going to buy real estate and plant a church in the metaverse in 2020.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and it was going to cost tens of thousands of dollars. And then as we prayed about it and sought the Lord about it and talked about it, we were like, no, we're not. We don't feel comfortable doing it. God didn't give us peace with it. And sure enough, the metaverse collapsed, So, it's using wisdom, which is what this book supplies you for.
And speaking about wisdom and a father's heart expressing this, one of the things that my father did for me that I'll never forget, it was, you're talking about the girls, the glory and the gold. I didn't even know I was seeking the glory. It was when I had worked at a job for 10 years. And things were just not going good. I'm just going through trial after trial in the job. And I call my dad and I'm saying, I think I need to get a new job. Yeah. I've always looked up to my dad because my dad's had one job. He's worked in the post office for 45 years and he's faithfully served his church. So I always like that loyalty, that character of my dad. So then when I'm thinking about leaving to do something new, I want to call my dad and see what he thinks. And when I'm telling him what's going on, they're treating me like this. And he was like, son, you can't go nowhere. You're still a new hire. Yeah. So that's just the wisdom of a father saying, hey, you've been here for 10 years. This is still new. He told me that probably 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And now I'm doing this podcast. We're 6 months in. And then if I'm looking at the numbers, then I may want to try to do new things instead of just being faithful.
Let's change it.
Let's just be faithful.
Yeah.
Let's just be faithful and go to the reason why. Yeah. Because if we have the why in front of us, that'll keep us consistent and faithful. If we don't have that pure why, then we're going to be trying to do new things, like what you said, from an insecurity or from a fear base. What I see here in this verse, verse 9 through 11, the term has been is listed 3 times. Has been is what will be. What has been done will be done. It has been already. And a lot of people, especially like in the rap game, you don't want to be a has-been.
Yeah.
But what ends up happening is sometimes rappers stay too long in the game.
Yeah.
So it's like you can still write, you can still do music, but you don't have to perform all the time. Just do it for the art. Just do it for the passion. But these people that are always trying to do new to prevent being a has-been, that's the pressure that you're talking about, that I got to keep this certain relevance, whether it's the girls' gold glory. But like, if you just love the art of it, just do it in private.
For sure. Yeah. And I think like one of the things that if I'm working like with our like creative team, or I work with other artists or something like that, is like, to me, this verse gives me a lot of peace, because it's the idea that, sometimes I'll talk with, our creative team or another artist, and I'll say that's a little too new. It's like a little too fresh. Okay. Like dial it back. Okay. And or I remember originally you're wearing one of our Beyond the Letter T-shirts for our podcast at the church, and when I first, and this is a perfect example, when I first created that logo, my brother originally co-created the show with me, and there were 3 things he hated about this shirt in particular. He hated the earth at the bottom. Okay. He hated the heart in the O, like the O being the heart. Okay. And then he hated the little angels on top, which kind of represented heaven. Okay. And his answer was, it's all played out. He says everybody uses the earth for everything. Everybody uses hearts for everything. He wanted like an anatomical heart, like Da Vinci style. And then he said, and little cherub angels are corny, And my premise, being that I used to have a marketing company, was you see what you see as played out, I see as familiar.
I see.
And so when someone sees what has been, then they are familiar with it, which often means they are much more willing to trust it.
I like it.
Because it's familiar. That's why you go to drive-by fast food places. There's so many similarities to all of them. They're all using red and yellow, and they all got this little mascot, whether it be, a star for Carl's Jr. or M for McDonald's or whatever, right? They're not all trying to literally pave their own road. That's why CVS and Walgreens put each other's stores right next to each other.
Yeah.
Because what you can't find at one, they're assuming all you got to do is go across the street and find it at the other.
Yeah.
So it's in the has-been that they cooperate with each other to create familiarity. So if I'm talking like a business owner, or I'm talking to someone in the faith space, I'm like, let's not pray for an absolute winsome idea that no one has ever heard of. Actually, let's see what has been done and see how God can gift you to make it better by being more excellent, bringing a deeper level of excellence, bringing in integrity in a particular space. You know, sometimes some spaces just need a man or woman of God to bring excellence and integrity.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's what has been,
Yeah.
you know? So
Yeah.
it's like, you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
Like, let's just bring an element into the space that takes a man or woman of God.
Yeah.
And for God, many times that's enough.
Yeah.
You know,
What I'm thinking about what you're saying is, hey, this company has been in existence for so many years. We get a new leader. It's the same company. Now it thrives.
Yeah.
Same vision, same values, but this new leader that embraced what has been in a new way can take it higher. Or there's been these companies, it has been in existence for this many years. You get a new leader, it crumbles.
Yeah.
So that tension of doing something new while honoring what has been because it's familiar to either your customers or your internal customers as staff.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And I think, lastly, people get caught up with this idea of like, well, you know, when Solomon's writing this, the iPhone wasn't invented, and that was a new thing. The iPhone touchscreen and Apple Store and all these other things like that, that's new. So what does he mean? There's nothing new under the sun. Well, new mediums may always exist. There wasn't internet back then. There wasn't electricity back then. I mean, unless you're unless you think the Egyptians figured it out at the same time. But regardless, like, most of that stuff didn't exist. And so just to say like, oh, well, there has been new stuff created. Well, there's been new mediums that have been created, but overall the desire for light has been the same. The need for light.
Yeah, the need for communication.
The need for communications. We would bring the news for it, but forth and all these other things like that. And so what Apple has been able to do is build upon a necessary need that has already existed. And that's what we have to keep in mind, where someone may say, well, I think I have an idea for a new thing. Pastor Adam, are you saying that's not actually new and I shouldn't work on it and create? No, what I'm saying is, understand first, is it built into the core identity of how God has created us? Because there's nothing new there. We always need purpose. We always need love. We're still mind, body, soul. And so things have to speak to those things. And a medium may change and you may have a great idea, but just know that you don't get all the glory and credit for it. The Lord does, which is what Ecclesiastes is trying to get to.
Exactly.
So
that's what we're going to do. We're going to practice the tension between doing something new while honoring what has been. And like what Pastor Adam said, these verses actually take pressure off of us to try to not do something so cutting edge. I like how you real time gave the Beyond the Letter example. And anybody that listens to this podcast should be listening to Beyond the Letter and Beyond I Do. Well, hey, that's the drip, because this is a drip. This is not a whole pour. This is turning into a whole puddle. So this is a drip. So we're going to close this episode by saying, stay dripping, my friends.
Stay drippy.